and Brian waiting, so we can have a pretty interactive session today and find you some resources that will be helpful to you in your service. Again, this is the VISTA Campus Tour, and we'll be focusing on some nuts and bolts resources, some keys for you in your service. My name is Michelle Bach. I'm with Camping Consultation, a training and technical assistance provider for the corporation. And we've been working with VISTA Campus for the last several years, trying to build it out and continue to provide resources to help VISTAs in this. So if you would, just to fill out the poll on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen, just like a sense of everyone's familiarity with the campus so that we can make sure that we're hitting on the right notes. And so I might pause for a second to ask Brian whether you're a current member or a leader or none of the above.
I was registered as a supervisor. I work for the Way of South Mississippi, and we've been approved for 3 vistas starting in July.
Okay.
So I'll be going to the supervisor training in Atlanta at the end of this month.
Great. And have you spent much time on the campus before?
No, just this morning, actually.
Okay, great. So I try to point out a couple of these tours don't really dive very deeply into the supervisor, but I can point out a few things on there as well for you. I'm sure that the member information will be helpful in terms of directing your visitors once they come on board as well.
Correct.
Great. Well, also joining me today is Sharon Rabb, and she'll be doing the technical portion of this session, so I'll turn it over to her for the moment.
Shannon, a few quick tips for using WebEx, which is the form we're using for today's workshop. If you lose your internet connection, you can reconnect using the link that was sent to you and it was emailed to you. And if you lose the phone connection, just redial the number that you used to join. There's a number for tech support if you're having a problem with WebEx. And for the other people on the line, would you please remember to mute your line, and it is open now by pressing *6, and if you want to, you can press #6, and we will be able to have a kind of exchange. So, let us begin.
Thank you, Sharon, and welcome, Rebecca, too. Saw that you joined us. So a couple things we'll go over today for those of you who are getting used to the campus. We'll show you how to get started, where to enter, talk about how you register for an account. Most of our time in the 3 VISTA areas, which are Life as a VISTA, the work, and connecting with VISTAs. And you'll see as we go through, there are certain ways that each of these areas are organized to help both answer questions related to service, but then also answer some more project-specific questions having to do with skill building in order to address what's in your VAD. And show you some ways to connect with other in the VISTA community, talk about tips for using the campus, and an opportunity to provide us with any feedback, questions, or suggestions. We are constantly evolving these tours, and we'll be doing some more topic-specific webinars in the coming months, so any input that you have will be really helpful. Is a screenshot of the campus homepage, which should look familiar. We've got 3 quadrants, I apologize, but they're not quadrants, 3 sections for VISTA's supervisors and state offices there in the middle. And then along the upper left, we've got different areas for additional user groups such as leaders, and then information for those who are new to the VISTA program as a whole. If you've tried to click on any links related to the campus, this is the login area, and so you do have the option to enter the campus as a guest, although we do certainly encourage you to sign up for an account that gives you a bit more reign in terms of participating in things like the forums, interacting with others, messaging or chatting, having access to the journal activities, anything that would be associated with your profile is activated once you have an account. But sometimes we do have non-members want to take a look at information, and that's certainly available, but we do ask that you enter as a guest. Results, that'd be great.
Yes, we do. And you can see we have a mixed number of youth. One has experience on the campus and one has not. And so we hope today that we will be able to give you some further information so that how you can use the poll to your best ability. Does have experience with the poll has used it weekly. Thank you.
And also, Rebecca, you joined a little later, so please feel free to jump in with any questions as you go. And sure, no problem. I'll be shutting this up in a moment. One is
way to get a full screen on that.
Your screen all the way maximized right now?
There it is. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Got it.
Okay, so while we're doing some of the technical here, Rebecca, are you a current member or a supervisor?
I'm a member.
Okay. Are you relatively new into your service?
I am 2 months. Not quite 2 months.
Okay, great. And are you familiar with the campus at all?
I'm trying to, acquaint myself with it. I went through one of the tutorials on the volunteer thing because I've volunteer work, but never in an effort to create some kind of sustainability program for volunteers.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for today. In here, we're visiting the VISTA area, and I was in, so it took me right to this page. And what's before you is the member area landing page. And Brian, just to point out, this is where you would go directly to the supervisor material as well. Page, you can see there are a couple of items that are kind of highlighted in the slideshow here, and these have to do with some of the more frequently visited or requested areas. And so those will be the first thing that you see when you come to this page, and they also correspond to the links at the bottom, and you can click directly in the slides, or you can click on the links to go direct to those pages. If you want to point out on here, this is kind of your gate to the rest of the campus. So you've got direct links to vistas that are pertinent to VISTAs, Life as a VISTA, the work, and connect with VISTAs. You can also access them through icons on the second page. Is a good place to orient new members. Sometimes members who haven't yet gone to PSO who come to the campus are directed there, and that's where you'll find information related to the TCBs, the Civil Responsibilities course, and some also frequently asked questions around contact information and things like that, which we'll get into in a moment. The events, the campus calendar, this is where you would find events such as this, telling you there's a campus tour, and you can get into that and register for a session. Also webinars that are often hosted, Social Media Monday, which involve different online forums with VISTAs and case studies for those members or alumni who have used different social media platforms in their service to either raise funds, recruit volunteers, help to share their message. And so you can page through this calendar feature itself, or you can actually click into it and take a deeper look. Catalog serves as index of sorts for the VISTA, and there's also a campus catalog for supervisors that basically lists all of the resources in this area. So if you take a look around and you found something, but you either don't remember where it is, or somebody let you know that there's a particular course in here that was really helpful, you can actually come right to the campus catalog and search by particular and find out which area it is associated with. We do a search, which acts as any search functions. You just type in the keywords, and this returns results from across the campus, not just the VISTA area. So if you're looking for a project plan or something like that, it'll pull up that are in the VISTA area, in the supervisor area, in the state office area as well.
This is Rebecca.
Sure.
The project management webinar that they had earlier in the month, and looking through the calendar, I saw it only went through like May. Is you can go and look and see where different webinars are going to be scheduled in the future, so you got some kind of idea and you can plan it, because I put around multiple projects.
Sure. You're not the campus calendar would be the place to go. Normally, it's actually going to be updated very soon. Normally, we have it built out at least a month before the last date that's posted. That we're in, we're getting close to that point right now. But I would say within the next couple of weeks, it's going to be updated through the end of the school year, which is the end of September.
The campus catalog, it would all be posted on the calendar.
That's right.
Okay.
You're welcome. Anything that has a shaded, has a shaded block here is tells you when something's going on. And the webinar topics tend to be on Thursdays. In social media, Mondays obviously are on Mondays, and then there are some intermittent events that are not on a regular schedule, but we have had a series of poverty webinars and things, and those would be also listed on the calendar. Thing just to point out here on the left-hand navigation is the Member Handbook. Really, almost every question I guess asked ties back to an answer that is in the book, and so this is available from every page as well, and you can jump through it, so you don't have to go page by page, but you can jump around and navigate by chapter as well. So Bolt's session today, we're going to spend most of our time in the Life as a VISTA section. The way that I describe this is the area that has to do with the aspects of so you see that it has information to VISTA program history, allowance, managing years, so things like navigating the VISTA lifecycle, help, which includes content, obviously the Member Handbook, the report, which you may have seen at PSO. It's kind of some frequently asked questions like, how do you become a leader? How do you find support? Who do you contact? How do you get in touch with your state office? All of those types of questions you can find the responses to, or the links to the contact information within the VISTA Resource Board. And this is available through different on the campus. A lot of these tools are cross-referenced, for example. So we're in the Finding Help section now, but you would also find the Resource Board in the Starting VISTA section. And we've tried to do that because obviously different people have different searching for information, but also might be entering the campus at different points in their service for different reasons. To give you an example of how these pages are organized, you've got the category and then some of the kind of pieces of information related to that topic are in these larger icons. We also have a rating system on the campus where you can view feedback for a resource. You can also leave feedback and comments so that you can let other VISTAs or community members know, how helpful this resource was to you. And you see different size icons that indicate that this information is a bit more supplemental, and that happens as you make your VISTA page. And then we also have VISTA forums that are available through the Connect page, but also accessible on every page as they relate to a particular topic. For example, if you needed to find help, you would go to the VISTA Day or the conversation about your first 30 days of service and, post a concern, a question, or leave a comment. And those of you who are familiar with the campus know that the forums are one of the, if not the most, popular portion of the campus and really get of the larger VISTA community over there. Some point out, jumping to managing your year, I mentioned another really key kind of central piece to VISTA service is, sense for, serve in the ups and downs throughout that year. There's a course, Navigating the VISTA Lifecycle, which takes you through that process. There's also different links to different points in service, so 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, close of service. Also address enter your organization or your community, which can be, part of that position at the beginning of service, and tools related to that, and then some basic tools around time management and, problem solving within different groups that you might encounter at your service. And so, as you can see, is similar with your represented icons and then smaller as you go down. The terms, conditions, and benefits are available in the Starting VISTA area, and this resource is really meant for those who are in service or early on for any of the courses that you need to take. And this is a a flash-based tutorial that kind of pages you through course. And choosing kind of your own adventure in terms of what resources you're looking for. Some of these we took a look at were courses that you can navigate by using the table of contents on the left, like we saw with the Member Handbook, just and documents that can be, downloaded or printed out, or quick tips and things like that that are available in these areas as well. An example of one of those we saw in help in managing your year. We saw that under the 12 steps to time management. So this would just open up into a PDF that you can also use. Think about life as a VISTA. Sure.
Is this information, I guess, some things that might have been in our pre-service orientation book, or is this altogether new? Well,
sure. That's a great question. What I've pointed out in terms of these other topic areas are new, but there is a whole section here, resource from PSO. That is really, I believe, what you're asking about, which just takes the resources that were used in the training at your pre-service orientation and puts them in their area, knowing that people would like to go back and reference them.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Okay. Again, the life as a VISTA, that's just a very brief overview. There's a wealth of information here, but the idea to keep in mind is that for your VISTAs coming on board when they're just getting started and they have all these questions about service and, their education award and questions about the handbook and their stipend and, what do people generally do after service? There's a category about life after VISTA on here that we recommend, people take a look at as early on as they like. That takes you through, deciding what your next steps are, whether that's work or grad school or another year of service. So the idea about this whole collection of material is that it's really focused on aspects of your service. You know, from the work section where we're headed now, which focuses on skill building and very specific programming that VISTAs tend to work in. And so as you can see, the topics here, you know, working with volunteers, as Rebecca said, you visited some of the material there, fundraising, communications and marketing, areas that regardless whether you're working in homelessness or food security or having, you know, this related to these topics tend to cut across those areas. And so, believe it or not, there's even more information in this area. And so there's this interim layer that further groups some of the content, so that the idea for all of the information in the work is that this really helps VISTAs build the skills to they're being asked to do in their VAD. So in this particular case, you know, you've got a whole area around using social media, and it takes you materials that are available that can help you, whether it's or at a distance, you know, if you're trying to pull together communities who are not in the same location, or you are trying to learn how to, you know, use your Facebook page to better spread your message, or you know what some guides around that. And being a VISTA, information is housed in this, lack of a better word, using social media. And that's the case with each of these. So you see fundraising, same thing. Those who are looking to build their grant writing skills or to organize a special event, many in here take you really on a step-by-step process, so that if you were to go into one of these tools, use it, you know, at the end, whether that's a 2-hour session or a 14-week, you would have an end result that you're looking for. So we do encourage people to take a look around and to encourage their VISTAs to take a look around, because a lot of the resources that people tend to be looking for are, and have really been customized specifically for members to use. Are there questions about, you know, specific topics? There is really a huge amount of information in here, and so I know that I've been talking a lot. To give you a sense of the types of information that are available, Business Toolkit is a tool that's really meant to help you think about potential connections in your community. You might form partnerships based on what is the best fit in terms of your organization's mission, and also what other entities, or local businesses or larger corporations are looking to do, and who they're looking to partner with.
Again,
sure.
Is a recommendation from VISTA on, you know, the quantity of that you would go through? I mean, just, I know sitting through the volunteer piece of it, you know, the things that I learned, because I've been doing project management for years and years, but from a volunteer perspective, it was sure an eye-opener. You know, from my perspective, to be able to go through a horde of this prior to my service would have been terrific. You know, once you get in your, and, you know, you're working, you've got projects, you've got timelines, you've got all that, say is the recommended, it will, and of getting through this material, especially those things pertinent to what's on your VAD for your responsibilities?
That's a really good question, and I can't speak to a VISTA recommendation. Be familiar with a lot of the training material on here, and knowing how much it is, and really appreciating your comment about having known it in advance. I think it's going to vary on the project. We always encourage when you have more in the beginning of your service where you're still trying to get your bearings, to really go through, say loosely, if there was, you know, even an hour a week to take a look at something, I feel like that would be a huge benefit. Just because, you know, it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know, and you also don't know what you'll need until you're doing something. And when you're doing something, you may not have time to take that step back and what you're looking for. But you know, there are, as you saw, just hours worth of content here, and there's no kind of official recommendation. A lot of this material has been in the place of what used to be the in-service training, so that you had, you know, at 3 months into service, there used to be kind of the opportunity for everybody to come back together in a fashion similar to PSO, where you would really get to focus on some of these VAD-specific skills. And due to funding cuts and not being able to travel as much, these you know, pieces of content have really taken the place of that. And so that's why, as we build out some more of these webinars, we really are looking to do more training at a distance, and then also directing people to some of these tools that hope can help you make most of your time. Because you know, actually, I was a VISTA, and I know that time is short. And so, what tours like one today are aimed to do is really to just give people a sense of what's here, so that you know, when the time comes when you're looking for something, you'll look here first, and hopefully be able to use these as not as an extra to everything else they're doing, but really as a way to realize maybe some of the things that you're trying to do. That wasn't a direct answer, but it's, you know, the campus has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years, and it's continuing to evolve to where it can be a much more intentional resource that pairs with projects in a way that, you know, doesn't just all this information here and you don't know what to do with it. So hopefully this is where it's at.
You know, this what I'm in here is used to be in the program, a second step or whatever, after 3 training session or whatever, that's eliminated from the program, and that I'm certain is supposed to be. You've provided these tools. Which is setting in on the first one on working with volunteers, how pertinent that information is to the success of my responsibility in the VAD.
Mm-hmm. Somehow
there has to be some understanding of the importance of budget time to go through that.
Right. One of the pieces that we're trying to, you know, better integrate with PSO is just getting folks used to using the campus early on, so that you can see how that is tied together. You know, or you're well in service and may not know, appreciate how those things are tied together, as you say, but also may not know really what's available. Well, I just want to spend a little bit of time going through the last section, which is connect with VISTAs. Some of you be familiar well, especially as I mentioned earlier in regard to the forums, which are accessible from the top of this page, and this is live feed, so you know, whatever the most current conversation is will be reflected at the top here, and you can also look at the threads and activity within them. Are really slow today. A lot of people are taking courses. So Cafe is kind of an open forum, you know, any and all topics from, you know, I'm moving to Bristol, Connecticut, and I'm looking for housing, to information on working with volunteers, to, God, it's been a really hard week, how do I just get some inspiration? And so all those kinds of things are happening here, and start a conversation at any time. Your work has to do more specifically with the things that we've been talking about, things related to the VAD, questions for, I'm working on a grant and, I have a question about X. Those types of conversations take place here. C is connected to the V4 campaign, which is a way to just better VISTAs with the VISTA community, and also kind of the history and the legacy of the VISTA program. And so we invite people to participate in that. And then if you want to get to the complete list of forums, you can use that last tab. This is to obviously find our social media connections. I always say, the campus is really meant for training and resources. And so if there are questions that you have, on a regular basis, going to social media pages, particularly Facebook and Twitter, is the place where you're really going to get the quickest response, and also have different pieces highlighted. So we'll have different courses or different resources or a different area, really on a weekly basis. So it's a good way to find out something that you may not have discovered before. Then we go on the VISTA map. Two maps, the resource map and the Who's Online map, are actually in the process of getting combined. And so short page will look slightly different, but the idea is that you'll be able to see others who are serving in your area, others who might be currently online who you might want to speak with, and then also resources that VISTAs and supervisors who have come before you have entered, and that might be useful to you. So if you're working in Baltimore, and there have been other people who served in Baltimore and said, well, hey, Civic Works is a great organization, and we've done XYZ with them, you'll be able to know that because that will be captured in the resource map. And then you also have the opportunity to add entries to it as well. That's where you'd submit your story photo. And the Finder is no longer in circulation, but it's worth pointing out as it's a catalog of information by topics related to poverty. This was a publication that was in circulation for 3 years, and now has all of its content existing in digital form. And so you can see there are a lot of topics related to capacity building and to poverty, and stories of specific VISTAs and projects who have worked in those areas, and then also resources, organized practices, policy, other example projects, and particular people who are doing work in those areas. So something I like to point out as well. Broad overview of the member area. Are there any questions? Brian, I know you mentioned you're a new supervisor. Just jump over to the supervisor section for a moment. This is organized in a way, but it looks obviously a little bit different, and the top areas are different as they are specific to each supervisor needs. And so, like supervisor here, and I have to not as in the content here, but just to give you a sense about some of the categories that might be useful to you in the coming months. You can see, recruiting, background to the VISTA program, how to coach and support your members, implementation, training, which has to do with the end of this term and helping VISTAs figure out what's next. Some of the management pieces under roles and responsibilities, and then information specific to the VAD. And so it goes deeper in a format similar to what's on the member page, but to just give you a sense of, there is a whole section here just for you. Before I turn it back to Sharon. As I mentioned, a kind of broad stroke of the member area and pointed out a little bit of the super area. supervisor. And just want to thank you all for joining us and give you a chance to ask any last questions you might have about anything you saw or didn't see.
Again, it looks like from what is which I'm taking, which is here's my responsibilities on my VAD, and others go in and take a look at the subject matters out there and say, this I think I need to go look to be able to successfully reach these objectives and these objectives, and just kind of take tutorials in accordance that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, depending on how your relationship is with your supervisor, there are things that you can, once you've identified, speak to them and say, what you're thinking, and then, there are some circumstances where VISTAs are able to work directly with their supervisors on kind of a plan that they've laid out for themselves as it relates to both the VAD and the resources available, and to kind of use them hand in hand.
What I did was just put together what I could train in to be successful based on what was available off of the campus, and submitted that for approval.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what the hope is.
Yeah, I just put my timelines in there and kind of left it open to the webinars as webinars were did that some of those responsibilities that I would put in a request for those as well.
Are there any questions, Shannon or Brian? None from me. All right. We'll just briefly talk about some tips for using the VISTA campus. Obviously, to save your information, as I said, you can get in there as a guest, but we do recommend that you log in so you can access everything equally. While I'm going through these tips, I've loaded the evaluation on the screen, so if you wouldn't mind fill that out. There are some quick questions and then some open questions if you have any specific suggestions for things that you would like to see. We'll continue on with the tips. Use search box, as I mentioned. That is a campus-wide search, and it can help you access information from across the campus on a particular topic using keywords. As I said, and as Rebecca did a great for identifying the information that would be most helpful to you in accordance with your VAD, and also some of the Connect information and the tools around Life as a VISTA that can really help you in your service year. So see what's there. Familiarize yourself with the campus catalog. As we said earlier on, that's kind of the shortcut to find a particular resource, so to identify which section it can be found in. Your favorite pages. We know this is a big place with URLs that are kind of complicated as you get further deep into the materials. So you can bookmark those pages so that you can log in, go right to them. And then finally, start a conversation. As I mentioned, the forums are the most robust and active part of the campus in terms of ways to interact with others, but they're also open to supervisors and staff, so that there are VISTA headquarters staff in there to answer questions that come up. But for the most part, it really is meant to be a space for you and to share, to vent, to ask as you need to. So we do encourage you to check those out. And so is the end of our time today. So we do, if you haven't a chance yet, encourage you to fill out the evaluation. As we're in the process of selecting the next several months of tours, so if there's something that you would like to see or have feedback on, we would love to hear it. And again, thank you for joining us. We another tour focusing on life after VISTA resources on May 10th, and my colleagues here will be hosting that session as well. And of course, if you have any further questions, you can reach us at that email, vistacampus@campaignconsultation.com, and also visit the VISTA campus calendar to see the updated list of sessions that are available. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you found some information that was helpful, and hope we will see you next time.
Great.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.